So what Barb and I have been doing for the last month is actually taking a lot of the newer people on Lakeview 1 who are working with stroke patients and who are having, well, they don't have the same experience that some of us have had for years and years working with stroke patients. And we noticed that some of them are definitely having difficulty with the more complicated ones and the transfers, especially the sit-pivot transfer. So over the past month, we've been taking groups of people and actually just reviewing some of the principles of movement when working with our clients in terms of that whole transfer piece, which is moving from the bed, from lying to sitting, and then from sitting to the chair. Okay, so that's what we're going to be reviewing today. When we review it though, we also have to keep in mind the principles of movement, right? Keeping the body close to us, keeping our back straight, bending our knees, putting ourselves in the best position we can to ensure the safety of our patient and our safety. That's basically what we're going to be looking at. So there's a lot of movement that I'm going to do, hopefully with my body instead of just my arms, in order to protect my back, and that's what we want. And then also to get that efficiency of movement with our clients, okay? So thinking about our stroke patients, of course, and I know you guys know this in terms of assisting them on their affected side mostly, right? Because that's where they need the support. Making sure that they're aware of the positioning of their upper extremities, so it's in a position of safety and in a position where we're not pulling on it. Okay, that's one of the most important things that we have to remember. And we'll be talking about that through the whole thing. And if I forget, remind me, okay? There's also tips and tools that people have asked me about in terms of using your environment, definitely. You know, raising the bed, lowering the bed, raising the head of the bed, lowering the head of the bed as much as you need. But the perspective that I'm taking is actually one of rehab. Okay, I'm taking the basic principles that I use when I'm treating my patients in the hope that I'm going to get them stronger and better. And that's the focus for this, okay? And then we can talk and ask any questions you want in terms of something that is more on the compensating for, okay? So I need a volunteer. Annette, would you help me out? And we're going to say that your affected side is her right side at this point in time. The reason we're doing that is so that I can be on this side and I can show you, and then we'll move to the other side for the rest of it, okay? So if Annette, if we want to get her up on the left side of the bed there, if we notice that she's, and don't move, okay? She's a little close to the edge, and we know that if rolling her over and she doesn't have that rail, number one, she's too close to roll. We also know our patients who have proprioceptive deficits and fear of falling, that they won't complete their roll if they're too close to the edge. And I think we've all experienced that, right? So one of the things that we need to do is shift her in bed towards me or towards her right side a little bit to give her enough room to roll to that edge, okay? So to help her, we're going to say this is her right side. So Annette, can you reach up and grab your right arm? Now, if she can't, I can certainly help. And then that's it, perfect. So we're going to have her hold at her elbow, at the forearm and elbow. A lot of our patients, they like to reach over and grab the hand and the wrist, but the arm is actually quite heavy. So when you bring it over, they can pull at the wrist and actually cause a lot of pulling and discomfort. So we ask them to hold at the forearm and the elbow. And there's a nice little trick you can teach them too with that position in terms of encouraging the roll, okay? Then I'm going to ask her to bend her non-affected leg and bring it up as far as you can, and let's put your feet flat because we're going to do some bridging, okay? Her right foot, we're going to help her with what she can't do. So if she can start it but not complete it, okay, I'm going to help her, okay? And I don't know if you watched, but even when I was helping her, I was shifting my weight. I wasn't just taking the arms and moving them. So taking it and I'm shifting my weight. I also have my knee on the bed to protect my back a little bit. Now, we're in this environment, but certainly in a patient's bed, you might want to put a towel down or something down, right, for infection control. The next thing is we want to shift her to the right a little bit. If she's someone who just has a moderate deficit, she might be able to lift her hips, and I can just help, and that's how I want to show it today. So I'm going to put my hand just in front of the thigh here, just above the knee, because my pressure is going to be down towards the heel of the foot to help support it and get some weight bearing. My other hand is going to be underneath the hip, and I'm going to ask her to lift her hips, so if you can lift them, and then I'm going to help her shift. And it's just a really small shift. Oh, don't shift your shoulders yet, okay? And then we're going to help her lift this leg, and can you bring that leg in, okay? So she worked ahead of me, and she raised her hips, and she did a really nice job raising her hips. Her shoulders. But what do the patients do when they try to move their shoulders? Do they lift their head and shoulders? Typically, they actually pull them back, right? Or they push their head back, and it's hard to move. So what we want to do is we want to unweight those shoulders and head. So in order to do that, I'm going to come in close to hold this. Now, if they can't support the leg can go down, like that. Because now we're coming to the upper body, and we just don't want things flopping all over the place. So I'm going to come in, and I'm coming around your shoulders, and then I'm going to rock my body back to use momentum to help her raise her shoulders and her head as we shift over, okay? So I'm coming in here, I'm going to ask you to raise your head and shoulders, I'm rocking back, and I'm helping her move her shoulders. Pretty easy, eh? Some of our people are stiff, so it's not so easy, but a lot of them, with just a little bit of cueing, we can actually move them quite nicely, instead of trying to dig our arms underneath and pulling. And then we can bring this leg back up, come back to the hips, lift your hips up and over and straighten her out. How's that feel? Okay? Okay? And we'll lift your head and we'll move your pillow over for comfort too. Okay, so now we're ready to roll onto the side. To do that, the best way to get someone to roll is actually get them in this flex position, because rolling is a flex posture. She's rolling to her good side, and most of our stroke patients have a harder time rolling towards their good side. They're usually fine rolling to their affected side because they have all the motor control on the one side that's actually supporting it. She's moving towards her good side. She might have trouble working that right side. So the key points of control that I'm going to help her at the knee or the hip and at the shoulder, okay? A lot of our folks too have a lot of inattentions to their affected side, so I'm also going to ask her to turn her head to the side that she's rolling to, okay? So now I'd like you to turn your head to the left. We're going to help her here and here in order to complete the roll, okay? Shall we try that again? She's easy to roll. And if I want her to participate, what I can ask her to do is take her arm up at the upper arm, and when you roll, bring your arm with you, okay? And I'm going to just get in a better position here, so if I need to help her, I can shift my weight and help her to roll, okay? How'd that feel? Good. Okay, let's lift up there. So the next thing is to get her sitting up. She's in a great position to sit up. What we want to do is push or lift her knees a little bit, like that, okay? And if you notice, she's almost in the sitting position lying down, okay? I'm going to go underneath her shoulder, and I'm going to take at the hip, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring her legs off, and I'm crouched down here low because I need to get where she is. So I'm going to try to get underneath her shoulder there, and here, and on the count of 3, I'm going to shift my weight from my right foot to my left foot, and we're going to bring her up, and I don't want you to help right now, okay? The only thing I would ask her to do is lift her hips, so, and not let go of her when we get her sitting. How's that feel? Okay. So the most important thing is how I shifted my body. We're using a lever system to actually get her sitting up, okay? I did everything there for her, but if we wanted to, we could get her to participate as well. So what we're going to do is run back down, which is the opposite of what we just did. But this time, this is her strong arm, so I'm going to ask her to bring her arm here. I'd like you to go down onto your elbow, go down onto your shoulder, there, and then lift your legs if you can, and then if not, I can put those on, okay? If she can help me with sitting up, I'm going to get her to help me, and I'm just going to give her support as she comes up, okay? So we'll come up slowly, and just slowly use your arm, okay? So we're going to bring the legs over. If you can get that elbow underneath you, lift your head. And as she comes up, I'm just giving her the support that she needs as she pushes up, okay? Some of the things that our patients do though, that you have to watch out for, when they're on their side and they're trying to sit up, they come back onto their back, their upper torso, and if they're up on their back, if they're on their back, you'll never get them up. The other thing is, as soon as they start coming up, they want to grab to you. Don't let them grab to you, right? You've seen that, eh? Yeah, okay. Any questions? Does that seem pretty straightforward? Okay, so now we're going to get her set up for the transfer. So this is where all of you guys get to participate. So one of the key things in getting someone ready or transferring somebody is actually preparing their position for the transfer, okay? So we're going to do just a really basic movement lap in order to demonstrate this, okay? So I want you to sit right back on the bed. You guys sit right back in your chairs, okay? And we're just gonna slouch. It's like late in the afternoon. And our patients, right, you see them in their chairs and they're slouching, right? They're just kind of hanging there. So what I want you to do is raise your arms up for me. And how do they feel? How do they feel? Heavy? Yeah. Okay.
Relaxed.
But relaxed. Heavy but relaxed. Okay. Let's bring them down. Now I want you to sit yourself up. Now raise your arms. How do they feel? Lighter?
Yeah.
You have better range too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So getting our patients just sitting up puts them in a better position for movement, right? Down here they're kind of locked in, can't really move. Sitting up, they can move a lot better and they're ready to move, and watch everybody, you sit up and everybody's starting to shift their weight, right? The next thing I want you to do, both Annette and I are kind of dangling, so not a really good base for us to try to stand up. With you, I know these chairs are low, but just put your feet in a position you like, okay? Hold your feet there now. Don't use your arms and stand up. And tell me how easy it is. Oh, someone cheated. Okay, we all stood up, right? Not a problem. But our patients who don't have good trunk control may not be able to stand up with their hips way back on the surface that they're sitting on. Okay? So the next thing that we need to do then is get them to come forward to the front edge of the surface they're on. Okay? Because by getting them there, we're getting them to actually activate their core. We're also going to be able to put their feet in a better position for weight shifting. Okay? So I want you to come over the course. Come right to the edge. Right to the edge. And when we actually do the transfer, when the patients are in the chairs, typically what I tell people is bring their hips forward of the large wheels of the chair. And then they'll be in a good position. Okay? So the next thing to think about, okay, is feet position. We know our stroke patients, they may not have good sensation or proprioception. And I have a patient right now who, because of past comorbidities, she feels that her foot should be out there when she goes to stand up. Is that a good position, you think? No, eh? Right? Okay. So, most people are taught that their knees should be over the ball of their foot. Okay? So stand up from there. You can stand up, not a problem. Okay? Take a seat. What I want you to do now is come to the edge. Tuck your feet as far back as you can, as long as your heels stay on the ground. Now stand up. A little bit easier, right? A little bit easier, because less weight shift. And we want to make it easy for our clients, we want to make it easy for ourselves. So the rule of thumb that I use in terms of feet, you take those feet as far back as you can, as long as the heels stay on the ground, because you want a good base of support. Okay. If you don't have a good base of support, or if their heels are off and on their toes, when they come up, they're just going to shove them forward, right? So you want to get them to the edge, and then you want to get their feet tucked back as far as you can. The closer their feet are to the hips, the less weight shift that they have to do to stand up. And it's that weight shift that scares them, right? Our patients are afraid of falling forward. So they don't actually complete that full weight shift. So we have to make it easy for them to complete it. Okay? Yeah, it does. So come forward, come right to the edge. Now tuck your feet back and stand. Right? So we're putting them in a better biomechanical position for standing, or just accepting their weight on their legs. Okay? We've already talked about sitting up tall a little bit, which is good. But one of the things that our folks do when they actually do that weight shift is they kind of crumble down through there. And when you crumble down through there, what happens is as they start coming forward, they buckle at their waist, not their hips, and then they kind of slide. Does that ever happen? Right? So when we're working, we're going to work to keep them up in a nice position so that they're bending at their hips in order to get that weight shift. Okay? The other thing we need to consider too is where should they be focused in terms of looking. And most of our patients, for some reason, I notice a lot of them look to the floor. You notice that? So when you look to the floor, you actually go down to the floor. And you kind of slide, right? And you can feel that. You can see that when I do it. So even though I'm set up, if I'm looking to the ground and I'm shifting my weight, I'm sliding off the bed before I actually get onto my feet. Okay? So I want to be looking on the horizon. The other thing though, you have to be careful. If you tell your patient to look up, they'll look up. And what happens when they look up? They look up and they fall back, right? And we've seen that from a lot of our folks. So typically I tell them, look over my shoulder on the horizon, so they're looking forward, okay? The other thing is the hips. So when our patients come forward, right, if this is my affected side, right, and I'm bringing my body forward, I'll bring one side because I can get it. What about that side? Am I in a good position right now to actually stand up? No. And when I stand up, so get yourselves in this position, and when you stand up, is your feet equal? Is weight bearing equal on both feet? No, right? So we want that equal weight bearing for balance, whether we're giving them support or not, right? So we have to make sure that those hips are squared to the surface that they're sitting on. Okay? The other thing is, we talked about the feet a little bit, but we also want to make sure that the feet are squared up and that the feet are in line with the knee and the hip joint. So the hip joint's inside, not the outer part. Because then when they go to stand up, they're going to be in a nice position to step. Because if their feet are too wide, you can't, it's really hard to step from that position, right, in terms of weight shift. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so those are all the things that we have to think about in terms of preparing someone for a transfer. So we're going to do a sit pivot transfer, and we're going to get Annette all prepared, and then we're going to transfer to the chair. Okay? So bring this over. I'm actually going to get the foot pedals out of the way. And we're going to do what I consider to be a moderate assist transfer, meaning that the patient can do about 50% of the task, and I need to do about 50% of the task. So we bring the chair in, and because I'm doing it by myself, I want the chair as close to the bed as possible with her, okay? So that Annette only has to swing herself 90 degrees, but we're not going to do the full 90 all at once anyways. The only time we would change that position if we're using two people, and we put it more at an angle so that that second person can get in behind, okay? Otherwise, right at the bottom third or the top third of the bed. And if I can get the brakes on, that would be nice. There we go. And we're going to get the armrest out of the way. Okay? So it doesn't matter which side is your affected side. We have the right side in bed, but in order to see things better, I think we'll use your left side as your affected side. And it doesn't matter where the chair is on the clients. When we're working with them in their therapy areas, we actually work going both to the right side and the left side. Because in a functional world, you need to be able to transfer both ways. You know, you think of getting in and out of a car. On the passenger side, you're getting in on the left, you're getting out on the right. So you need to be able to move in both directions. It's only under special circumstances that we set them up so that they're only going in one direction. And it could be someone who's a pusher or someone who can only move well in one direction. Okay? So what we're going to do, I'm going to see if I can lower, I don't think I can lower this bed anymore. No. Okay? So I'm just going to bring this a little bit closer. So this is Annette's affected side, so I'm going to get in here pretty nice and tight. We're going to put her arm on her lap. It's going to give her support. And the thing is, when we do a sit pivot transfer, we're not coming right up into standing. We're going to stay low. What we're going to do is help her shift her weight so that her hips are unweighted just enough on the bed, and then we're going to pivot over. And when we first pivot over her neck, we're just going to pivot right here. Okay? So I'm going to make sure that her feet are in alignment. And actually, let's have you go back for a second, because I want to show people how to bring someone forward if they're having a hard time. Okay? So if this is your affected side, I like to get down on the ground, I always do. Okay? I want you sitting up nice and tall. And can you shift your weight onto your right hip? Okay, now shift over to unweight here, and I'm going to draw it forward, okay? Now, lift your right hip and bring it forward again. And shift onto your right hip. And now, in order to help, I have my hand back here and here to help drive it forward a little bit, okay? And then we're going to come in. Her feet look pretty good. We're just going to bring them back. Now, the odd time you might find that you can't get the patient's feet back as far as you want to, or one you can get back far and the other you can't. It could be tight heel cords. It could be someone who fractured their ankle in the past. Just bring their feet back as far as you can, okay? Yikes. Okay. Put that back on. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to come in and I want to block her leg, because I know she can't take full weight through her leg, and I want to be able to block it. So I'm going to come in front of her, and I'm going to put my knees right in front of her knee here, right at the patella, okay, kneecap. I'm not going to go in between like this, because the knee bends, right? So if I put my knees on either side and she can't support it, she's still going to bend. And what happens with that, people feel that they're falling, and then they end up lifting the individual, and we don't want to lift, right? We want to assist the patient with the movement and not lift them, okay? So I'm going to walk in front, like so. I'm going to have her put her hand in my low back, on the back, okay? My left hand is right up at the top here, because I'm going to help sit her up nice and tall and keep her there, but also help her with the weight shift. And then I'm going to put my other hand right down underneath her hip by the ischial tuberosity. And then we're going to shift her weight forward to unweight her hips. And then we're going to pivot and sit. And I'm using my knees to help that pivot, to shift that pivot. Okay? How'd that feel? Good. Okay. Now we need to reset her feet so that they're squared up. And we're going to just repeat the process. And this time you're going to go part way on the chair. Okay? So bend forward and shift. And she's not there yet. And move her feet. Now don't. She's getting ahead of me. She's a really good patient. Let's move this foot over a bit. Okay? So this time we're going to go to the right. And we're also going to go back a little bit. Okay? So bend up and back. There we go. And then from that position, we can flip this back. She might be able to wiggle herself back, right? And if I put the foot plates on, most of the time they can wiggle back as well. Okay? How's that? Good. Number one, I wasn't holding any clothing, because I had my hands on the neck so that I could feel how she was moving. The other thing is the biomechanics of that weight shift are in such a way, because we've set her up in a good position, we only have to do that weight shift once. So we're not rocking her. We're not doing this 1, 2, 3, rocking forward, because most of our patients, they can't handle the momentum of coming forward like this, and then in a split second going forward and up, because they rock it out, right? And then we have to block them. And quite often, that's a lot of movement for even us to maintain. So, come on forward. Okay, I'm just going to move this out of the way for a second. And I want you to show you, let's bring your feet back a bit. Okay, so I'm going to come in here again and put your arm here and put that arm around me. Okay, and then I'm pulling myself back like that in order to get her weight over her feet. And let's sit down again. okay? And that's one of the biggest things that people tend to forget, is they start to bring them forward, but they don't finish it, and then they lift, right? So I'm actually drawing back quite a ways in order to get your weight over your feet, okay? Should I do one more time? So one more time. Can you bring your feet back a little bit? There we go. Put your arm around me. Sit up tall, look straight ahead, and I'm going to rock myself just once. And then I can move her in any direction I want, or I can even get her standing up, like that. Okay? So let's sit down. All the way. And when we sit down too, we take the patient down. We don't drop them down. We want to get them sitting. And if you notice, I sit her on the edge. I don't try to push her back into the chair right away, because we can use the same pattern, get her set up, get her unweighted, and then push back through the knee in order to get her back in the chair. Okay? So the first thing, I'm going to talk you through it. Okay. First thing is to bring their hips to the edge.
Just gonna say, can you?
Okay, which side do you want my affected side?
This side?
Okay.
So rock your hips.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Feet. That's it. Good. Okay.
Back to side.
Okay. So both knees right in the front. Nope, right in front. Now, what you can do with your feet, if you can't put them side by side, sometimes I just put them in tandem a little bit. Okay? Right in front. And that's going to be the hardest thing. So what you might find is that you may have to bend down a little bit more. There you go. Right in front. And just squeeze your knees together. There you go. It's going to be awkward to start with. This hand comes here. This hand's here. Yeah.
Okay.
And put your hand way underneath. And this one a little bit higher. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the only thing is, you got me so far, then it felt like you were lifting.
Okay.
So let's go back, and all I want you to do is take yourself back and get me on my feet. Okay? So we're not going to do the movement part. Okay? Okay? Yeah. So I'm going to help you here. You're going to go, no, you rock back. Right there, right there. Perfect. Now use your knees and shift me. And then, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay.
Feel the difference.
You can feel the difference. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay.
Go right in front. At first it's going to feel really weird, but once you get that, it's great. So, and yes. Oh, you didn't hold me.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not giving you a lot of help yet. Okay, I really need you to hold with your arms.
Okay.
Okay? No, knee in front. Okay, take yourself back. Hold. Now use your knees. There you go. And then down. Much better. Much better. Okay, so set that leg up again. Bring it back. Bring the foot back. Just this one. This one is probably okay. Right? Yeah. Right in front. That's it. Now draw yourself back. There you go. Nice. Good. You can feel the difference, eh?
Yeah.
When you actually have their weight on their feet, then you have that freedom to move them any way you want. And that's the piece that most people have the greatest difficulty with. But if you get them set up correctly at the edge and get their bodies set up properly, then you're going to be able to move them quite nicely. So when we do a stand step transfer, you don't need to worry about the armrest. Okay? We'll get you sitting there. Okay? So I'm going to go way back. We're going to do the same thing. Okay? We're going to say that this is, let's say this is your affected side now. Okay? I'm going to put that arm, this arm there. Sit up nice and tall. I want you to put all your weight on your right hip and bring your left hip forward. Good. Put your weight on your left hip. And I actually am asking her to shift her weight. I'm actually not asking her to lean. What would happen if I said lean to your right?
I fall right over.
What lean? See the difference? When she leads with her shoulders. Okay, come on back. Now just shift your weight onto your hip. Typically, if you say shift, they're gonna actually work from their hips rather than the shoulders.
Yeah.
Okay? That's tricky.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so now we set up the feet. Now, I'm doing the same thing with the feet, but this time we're gonna come right up into standing. Okay, so put your arm around me. Okay, bend forward and up, and I'm pushing in with my left hand into the hips and my knees into her knee. And I'm not going to let go of that. And you notice, in order to support that knee, I'm still in a crouched position. Okay? We're going to have you take a small step forward with your left foot. Hold there. Now shift your weight. And as soon as she shifts her weight onto that left foot, I can let go here and help her move that foot. But I'm coming back on it so that she can take weight onto it to support it so that you can take a small step forward again. And then we're going to shift and I'm going to move it and take a small, I'm actually going to take this one second. I'm going to take this foot. Now take a step back with your left, shift onto your left, and I'm going to start from the front here and get that foot back. And then we're going to sit down now. So go straight down, hold there, okay? Now to get her further back, she can either wiggle back, or I'm going to do the same thing that we did earlier, okay? We're going to have you shift your weight forward, get your weight on your feet, and then I'm going to, oh no, you moved too quickly. Bend forward, and I'm going to push her back with my knees. There we go. Good. Now we're going to do a two-person sit pivot transfer. So the chair is going to be changed a little bit in terms of its angle so that Barb can get in between. Now, the person from behind has to be careful in that when we're doing this transfer and we're shifting and twisting somebody, they're already putting their back in a position of a twisted fashion, and you'll see that in a minute when Barb puts her arms underneath the hips, okay? So you have to be very careful keeping your back straight. The other thing that we have to be mindful of too, as we're moving the client, we're moving them in stages instead of all at once. And the reason why we're doing that is we want to make sure that we're not putting a large load on our backs as we're twisting, because we can ruin our backs if we do that, okay? So, Annette, Barb and I are going to help you. Now, the person that actually leads a two-person transfer is the person that knows the client the best, because they're going to be directing the three people, okay? And it doesn't matter if you're tall or short, just whoever is comfortable with it, okay? So, we're going to say that this is your affected side, okay? I need you to sit up nice and tall. I need you to shift your weight, and we're going to bring you forward. That's it, right to the edge. Okay, now the only thing is some of our beds, the edges are pretty soft, so you have to make a good judgment. If you bring them too close to a soft bed, they can slide right off. Okay, so you have to be careful of that. Then we're going to set up her feet, so her heel is off here, so I want her heel flat. Okay, and we want that one flat, okay? Now typically when I have to do a two-person transfer, it's usually on a very big individual. They're very tall and I can't usually get my hands down at the hips. So I think, Barb, what we'll do is I'll get you at the hips and I'll be at the upper trunk. How's that sound? And let's bring this a little bit closer. Let's bring your arm up there. Okay? What side did I say? This is just side. Yeah. So we're going to move you here first. You're going to put your arm around me. I'm going to put my hands here. Barb's going to get her hands way underneath the hips. Okay? On the count of 3, we're just going to rock you forward once, unweight your hips, and then shift you. And go back out. Nice. So we don't want to take a hand off of her. We don't want her to fall over on us. We'll reset the feet. And now we'll move over to the chair a little bit. So that nice and tall. Bend and pivot. Beautiful. And you can move that foot, and I'm going to help that foot, and now we're going to move further back in the chair. Okay? 1, 2, 3, and back. Beautiful. Nice transfer. Very nice. Good. That worked out really well. Okay, and that's how you can work. Sometimes though, if you can get underneath the client, you still may need that second person behind. So the one person underneath the hip and the trunk, and the second pair of hands where it's needed, either on the torso or underneath the hips, depending on the individual's needs.